Welcome to the Biz Alchemist podcast. I am your host, Fallon Jordan, and this is my first episode with a guest as my new name, the Biz Alchemist. And I'm just so excited to be talking with Crissy Freeman Cascio, who is a divorce empowerment coach. And we're going to go into her story, but you had an experience. You decided to alchemize this situation and turn it into a business. So it's like literally the perfect way for me to step up in this new way. And I know that's exactly what you do for your clients. So thank you so much for being here. And thank you so much for doing what you do.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I could not be more excited, especially knowing that I'm the first guest. Yes. On this. So I'm absolutely thrilled that you had me. So thank you so much. I can't wait for our conversation.
Yes. So I'm going to share a little bit about you, but you can definitely read Crissy's full bio below. Crissy is a certified life designer coach, and that's how we met, which is through Julie Biesler certification, which is amazing. It's an amazing certification program if you're looking for a life coaching program just on the side. And Crissy empowers women to say yes to themselves and get back in the driver's seat after divorce, which is part of her Instagram handle, which I love that so much. And after her 19-year marriage ended, Crissy found herself struggling with her identity. She was no longer a wife. She was a single mom navigating life on her own with no idea how to put one foot in front of the other. Instead of feeling empowered, she felt anxious and alone. And as a result, she embarked on a journey of inner healing that led to pursuing her passion of becoming a divorce empowerment coach. And one of the most amazing things is that her coaching program and her coaching style of supporting and guiding her clients on their transformational journey is bringing them from misses to me after divorce to create the life they want and deserve. And for me, and it's like capital M, capital E, I just find it extra super special too, because you live in Maine and ME is the abbreviation for Maine. And I am from Maine. And I just think there's so much beauty in the details. That's my Virgo self.
I love that.
Oh my God. So fun. So I have Julie's USU affirmation cards. I thought it'd be kind of fun for us to pull one.
Yes.
And then see where we go. But yeah, and the more since I've met you, of course, this is the way it works, right? You meet someone oh, I do this very specific, amazing thing, and then you just start seeing the need for it everywhere. And I mean, I have friends in their late 20s that are going through divorce right now. And it's I mean, the age doesn't matter, the amount of time. I know that all is relative, but you're just so needed. And I'm just so grateful that you're doing this.
Thank you.
Oh, so I pulled kindness as the card.
Oh, perfect.
So perfect for you, because you radiate kindness and wisdom. And I choose to be kind to my mind, body, and whole self today, and to everyone I interact with. I love that for us so much, because yeah, when you're having an identity crisis, the first thing is not just even beating yourself up, but continuously asking yourself these really big questions and maybe not having an answer. So I would love to hear a little bit more just about your journey. And then I'm sure that makes you attract certain clients going through the very same thing. What are some of those big questions that people are asking themselves when they're having that identity crisis?
Yeah, so it's a journey for sure. I mean, divorce is there's so many changes we go through throughout our lives, right? And divorce is one of those changes that you can't avoid the shift that you go through. As much as you try to run from the emotions, you try to run from all of those feelings of grief, you can't. And in that process, you also go through such a significant change that you have to look at the who, sort of, who am I now? I identified as a wife for how many years? And with that, for me, it was 19. And to your point, It doesn't matter how many years. When you're in a long-term relationship and it does end up in a marriage, and then ultimately, in some cases, you end up having children, you sort of begin to play this role of, okay, I am the one that needs to be here to take care of everyone. I need to make sure that everyone feels loved and supported, and that their, schedules are on track, and so many other things on top of, what about myself?
Right.
The job, that whatever you might have, or if you're a stay-at-home mom. And so after divorce, that is no longer there. And so you sort of look in the mirror and say, okay, so who are you, Crissy? Who are you, Fallon? Whoever, when I talk to clients, that's what they say is, I don't know what to do at this point. I was a part of this family unit, and that is no longer. So how do I put one foot in front of the other? And for me, it was about, after being in a marriage for 19 years and being that's all that I knew, it was about, okay, I just want to find my purpose. I want to find my passion. I want to find, who am I at my core? And that takes a lot of work to first realize that the shift is there. And then second, to take action. And what sort of action do you even take? And that's where the women I work with come to me to say, I don't know where to go. There's so much fear. There's so much anxiety. There's so many feelings coming up right now that, when I said in my bio, literally putting one foot in front of the other can be a challenge. And so it's stopping all the noise, and it's really figuring out, where do we go from here? And so I put together sort of this transformational process for women that is actually called Mrs. To Me. And it's about rediscovering you after divorce. And I love it. It consists of 6 sort of pillars, I call them. And it is the process that I created for myself, and now I use with my clients.
I love that. Do you want to give us a sneak peek at some of the pillars?
Yeah, absolutely. So my first is really the most critical, and there's a reason I put it first. So I do say to clients, you don't have to go through these in this particular order. However, the first one is crucial. The first one is what I call the clearing. And the first one is really about the inner work. And we have to create sort of this new foundation in order that we're going to start from, in order to move forward. And in order to build sort of that new foundation, we have to clear out old patterns, because when you're leaving a marriage, or when a marriage has ended and you're starting sort of this new chapter, there are old patterns that you don't want to repeat as you move forward in relationships. And those relationships could be friend relationships, it could be family, it could be romantic relationships. And so that's why it's the first step, is to really go in and to start doing the work around, who am I, really getting clear around what is it that lights me up, and how do I discover those things. And so we do a lot around creating new habits for ourselves, habits that bring us joy. And that's kind of the first pillar, is really finding joy, finding your sanctuary, if you will, which is a space for only you, where you can do whatever you want. You can journal, you can meditate, you can say affirmations. I mean, there's so many things. And it really is individualized. I really try to focus on the individual, because there are people who will say to me, I've tried meditating and I can't get my mind to stop. Yeah. So we don't start there with them. We start with maybe journaling or something else. And so, but that's the first one. So the first one is out of the 6, it's called the clearing. And that is an essential step.
Love.
And my other favorite is the navigation. The navigation is one where that's when we really dig deep on navigating relationships. So navigating, one of the things that we all go through throughout life at different times is a shift in friendships, a shift in, it's a really big change when you have a group of friends that were part of your partnership as a married couple, and now you're alone. And sometimes people choose sides, but sometimes you also really just aren't in alignment anymore with where they are, whether that's from a spiritual perspective, whether that's from a work perspective, so many things. And so I really encourage clients to pause and take a look at the relationships in their lives and which ones are truly serving them and why. And those that aren't, what are they giving to those relationships that they don't really need to be giving if they're not getting anything in return? So that's the navigation. And that's a fun one that we really try to be sort of playful with around, we do things like, I recommend people taking themselves on dates alone.
Yes,
So that they can start to get to know. Yeah. Isn't that fun?
Well, and it's a great meditation mindfulness practice, because it's like, what do I really want to drink now that I don't have to worry about what somebody else really wants and trying to make it more convenient for them?
Yes.
Codependent recovery person, right? And then it's like, what do I really want to eat?
Exactly.
Do I want to eat it all, or do I want to bring some home for myself and know that no one else is going to take it? Like, there's just so many beautiful little decisions that go into a date. Like, what do I want to wear? What kind of vibe do I want to be in? Like, do I want to sit at the bar and talk to people? Do I want to kind of just like be in my own energy? Like, so much beauty goes into the dates.
Oh, yes. And I love it. I'm so glad to hear you say that, because it's so true. Like and a lot of my clients are what I call recovering codependents.
Yeah.
Where they're used to sort of giving to everyone else's needs and not taking anything for themselves. And so that is why that's a crucial part of the process, is spending time alone, is really starting to get clear about, when I'm alone, what am I choosing and why am I choosing to do that? And then bringing that into all their other relationships. So I love that you've done that. I love that you enjoy that experience too, because I just think it's so valuable for all of us.
100%. And there's other examples too of going out to eat, but that's just like one of the things that I really like to do. And like you said about being recovering codependent, like, what are some of the things that when you started doing by yourself that you were like, oh, wow, like I want something totally different, or I want to kind of put on a completely different part of me in this, in this situation? Like, that was like a totally random, like all over question, but
No. I get that. I do get asked that question. And I think it's a really good one, because I learned so much after my marriage around where I was being a codependent. I mean, everything from, just wanting to make sure that I kept the peace. And the only way to keep the peace was to make sure that everyone was happy. And I had no idea when this marriage ended what I liked. I honestly had no idea. Wow. And one of the things was, my former spouse used to love big social activities. He loved going to bars and like being around people and lots of drinking and lots of, and I learned, I thought I liked that. I thought, okay, that's part of what I like to do. And so that's what I'll do. I'm just going to go to bars on the weekends and with him, and, we'll do that. I don't like it. I learned I don't like it. It's too noisy. I can't hear people talking. I'm not a huge drinker. And so I would prefer, honestly, to do something outside, or to do something with just a couple of friends where we can actually connect and have a real true connection, versus, this big event where, there's so much noise and everything. And that was how I was spending a lot of my time. But even after the divorce, I was putting myself in those situations, and I would actually get to the point where I started asking myself, I'd be in a room of people and I would actually go in and I'd start breathing. And I think breathing is so important for people, is really reconnecting with your breath to allow you to get present, even when there's noise around you. And so that's what I would do, is I would be in these situations and I go, wait a minute, something feels off. And I just kind of go in. People weren't necessarily knowing I was doing this, but I would sort of go in and start breathing. And I'm like, yeah, this isn't at all where I want to be right now.
Yeah.
I am
Get
not
me
enjoying
out.
myself. So that was one big one for me where I was truly I'd done it for so long that I didn't even know that it was something I didn't enjoy. And that
Wow.
also led to, pulling back in some friendships, which was really hard for me because those friends, that's what they love to do. And for
Mhm.
me, it just wasn't aligned with who I am and who I want to be going forward. And so pulling back from that, it's a really hard thing to do.
Yeah. And I'm so glad I asked, even though I asked in a weird way, because I kept hearing like seeing this scale of like introvert, extrovert. And like there's so many people that like identify a certain way growing up and then
Mm-hmm.
they start dating, then they get married and they cling to this persona and then realize what they want. And I really truly feel like there's so many people who identify as extroverted who are actually just
Mm-hmm.
codependent.
Oh,
And like
totally.
once they heal, they become more introverted. People are like, why are you like spending so much time by yourself now? And I'm like, yeah, because I actually like being with myself because I know what I want to
Yes.
do. I know how I want to feel. And I know what I have to do or not do in order to feel and do those certain things. So, yeah. And I love that because just seeing people transform through the healing journey. I had this one client who was in her early 20s and she was healing very, very rapidly. And we were doing a lot of like brain based stuff too. And she was like, yeah, I'm just kind of worried that like I'm actually like not needing to be around people as much. And I was like, oh, well, like, why is that? Why is that scary to you? And she's like, I just always thought I had to be around other people. I thought that was like where I got my energy. And now I'm realizing that I don't. And I don't want to be alone. And I'm like, well, what is alone? And it's like, oh, I'm never
Yeah.
alone, like just being by myself. And like, there's that, I believe loneliness is an epidemic. Tony Robbins has said that. And there's just a lot that goes into that rediscovering yourself, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
divorce or relationships with other people, like
Yes.
friends, colleagues, whatever. But it's just really interesting. Like when you give yourself permission, like if you're going to heal and become a different person, you're literally a different person. That means that you're going to have some different personality traits.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm so glad that you brought up the loneliness piece. I'm so glad you brought that up because that comes up in almost every first conversation, one-on-one coaching conversation I have with
Mm-hmm.
clients is I ask them sort of, where are you struggling the most? And one of the first things that comes up is loneliness. I don't want to be alone. And we have to dig into that is what is loneliness? What is that really? And I want you to
Yeah.
really define that for me. Does that mean you're sitting at home and there's nobody else around you? And what could you be doing with that time
Yeah.
instead of thinking about this word lonely? And
Yeah.
so we talk about it and we do a lot of work on that because I think a lot of people do that. And I love that you said you're never alone when you truly are connected with yourself and what brings you joy. And I think, so many people think that the only way to prevent loneliness is to be with another person all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
truly, that sometimes is what's creating our anxiety and codependency and these
Yeah.
codependent behaviors. So, and it
100%.
becomes a cycle. You're on the hamster wheel and it's like, okay, we're just going to keep doing this over and over. So when I talk about eliminating old patterns, that's exactly it, is how this whole identity piece around how you have showed up in the world up until this point. I mean, I was 45 years old when I got divorced. So 5 years ago, and I'm now 50. And I was like, wait a minute, I have lived 45 years not knowing who I am and being this codependent in this relationship. I mean, wow. Like,
Right.
so, and so now, yeah, when people question me and say, what happened? You used to love to go out, you used to love to do this, that, and go to a party and all this. I'm like, yeah, And I really never did enjoy that. And I'm loving being by myself a lot now. And has opened up this whole world for me where I just every day I wake up and I'm excited. Like,
Yeah.
yay, I get to do this. I don't have to answer to anybody else. So it's a
Yes, I
beautiful
love
thing.
that. I love that so much. So I would love to hear a little bit more about the timeline of your divorce. And then we were like, I'm making a business out of this. Like, I'm going to help people who are going through this.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was a journey. The 19-year marriage was something that we multiple times separated. It was I had a really hard time letting go because of my children. And I
100%.
thought
Yeah.
I was doing the right thing by holding on to something that was making me very unhappy. And I was living very small. But I couldn't pull that trigger because I was more concerned about, again, codependent, more concerned about what was going to happen to my children if I made that decision versus thinking, oh my goodness, if they were living in this house where both people were happy, but they weren't living together versus living with two people who aren't happy together, wouldn't that be an improvement? And no, so I held on for a long time. So anyway, so when we finally made the decision to end our marriage, it was a big shift. It was I had to do, like I said, I had to do a lot of work around what do I do next? What's my first step? And so you talk about the coaching program with Julie Riesler, who's absolutely amazing. Love
We love you,
loved her.
Julie.
Yes, love her. Well, I happened to, because it was during COVID time, or
Oh,
maybe
wow.
we got divorced just after COVID or during COVID, I think. I can't remember the time frame. But anyway, during that period of time, I discovered an app called Clubhouse. And I
Oh.
used to go and I used to listen in different rooms. And if people aren't familiar with that, it's basically an app where you go on and people talk about different topics, but you don't actually talk live. You just hear kind of their voice and you see a picture. Well, during that journey, I discovered what's called the miracle morning. And for people who aren't familiar with that, it's basically habit stacking your mornings. And this room, people would come in and talk about their struggles and how they sort of overcame them using the miracle morning. Well, I started following that practice where every morning I would have these habits that I would do for myself. And during that time, I discovered so much about myself because I wasn't in my head. I wasn't waking up in the morning and looking at my phone first thing. I was, going through these habits. I was saying affirmations out loud. I was talking about my intention for the day. I was doing some mirror work where I would actually do affirmations in the mirror. I mean, I didn't even have time to sort of think about that word loneliness, for
Right.
example. I was like, this is great. This is all about me. Well, while I was in that, Julie happened to come on Clubhouse it was a few days she had spoke, and I just loved listening to her. And so one point she said, I just want to let people know about this coaching program I'm doing. And everything that she had said was in alignment with exactly what I wanted to do. I have been in the corporate world for 25 plus years, and I was ready to make a change. But I also knew that I had something to share. I knew that I needed to share my voice and that I needed to help other women because I knew other women were struggling with the same thing I was. And so that one thing led to another. I reached out to Julie after that Clubhouse sort of meeting or date where she spoke, and I was in her class. And I didn't even know at that time I knew I was going to be a coach for women. I knew it would have something to do with divorce, but I had no idea sort of what my niche was going to be at that point. But as I did more work with her and, working with others in the Life Designer Academy, I really dug deep and I was like, this is it. This is my why. So that's what got me here.
That is amazing. I mean, for me, that seems like a very fast track.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I've done a lot of prior to this work, I've done a lot of one-on-one coaching, more career coaching though, as I worked in the human resource field for so many years.
Mm.
And so that I kind of already had that piece. And so I thought, you know what? I have so many friends who reach out to me for guidance, for it's just kind of it always happens to be sort of a natural flow. And I thought, yeah, this is it. But ultimately, my work is around creating a community. It's around, I've created a Facebook group, which is called From Myths to Me, Rediscovering You After Divorce. And community is so important for women and finding your village. And so I wanted to create a community of women who were really wanting the same things. They were ready to discover their why, ready to really change old patterns and to move forward into this next phase of their life with confidence and with the tools to get there. And so that's what this community is. And I love it so much. And so, yeah, I hope to continue to grow that. I hope to continue to do more group facilitation and ultimately some retreats down the road. So I'm
Yay.
really excited about this work. Yeah,
I love that for you. And would you do retreats in New England?
that would be my plan. Yes. So as you
I
mentioned, living in
love.
Maine, love the great state of Maine. And there are so many beautiful places in this state
Yeah.
to do retreats. And it's I really think it's an untapped community as far as that goes. A
Yeah.
lot of people will go to upstate New York or Massachusetts, and the Berkshires. And so this is where I would like to be, because I think there's no place better than New England.
Yes. I love that. So yeah, because I mean, growing up there, like there's just so many different types of places too, right? Like there's
Yeah,
the ocean, there's the lake, there's the river, there's the woods, there's the mountains, like you kind of have it all.
exactly. Yeah. And even in the winters, there's some beautiful barns and different
Yeah.
facilities that you can go that have a beautiful view. So, there's nothing like a snow-covered day, even though you don't want to be necessarily outside in it because it's
Yeah.
freezing. But if you have the view of it, it's absolutely gorgeous,
Yeah.
as you know. So yeah, so I can't wait to start doing those.
I'm excited. Well, we definitely need to stay updated on that.
Yes, we will, 100%.
That is amazing. So, if there's someone listening who maybe the D word's been kind of like floating around, but it's like,
Mhm.
well, things aren't that bad, or like you were saying, like, I want to stay for the kids, you know, I'm not getting abused or anything like that. It's just kind of like meh.
Mhm.
What are some things that you would tell them that have been helpful for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So first thing I would say is I would either get yourself a relationship coach or some sort of relationship therapist. I think it is important to, at least in my mind, if I we hadn't had someone to sort of help us through the process, even though I knew in my heart of hearts that this wasn't fixable. I also knew we needed an outside person to help.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
I would say number one is you definitely need to talk to someone. And if your spouse isn't willing to talk to someone, which does happen sometimes, find someone for yourself. It is so, and not your friends, because
Yeah.
I made that mistake of, going to my friends, and over time, when you continue to be with your friends and you're constantly talking about how unhappy you are in your marriage, it becomes sort of like an old record. It's like the same thing playing over and over again, and your friends can only do so much. And so that's why I say, number one, find someone that you trust, that is a good resource, whether that's a coach or a therapist, to help you with the decision. So, because then okay, I've done everything possible, and now I know that the only answer is this. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, if it was some sort of physical abuse or anything like that situation, I always say get out now, and that safety is number one. And then I would say the most life-changing moment and experience that I had was I went away for a weekend on a silent retreat. I said, I need to get away, and I need to just be by myself, where there are no distractions, where I can get really clear and grounded. And I just love nature. It's just something that for me is like my medicine. It's whenever I'm struggling, whenever I'm feeling overwhelmed, I go out in nature, and it just brings me so much peace. So I went and did a retreat, which actually was in the Berkshires in Massachusetts. And it was silent. I did yoga. I went to a few different, there was dance yoga, there was, hot yoga, there was meditation rooms, there was, fires at night. There was a lake where we could go sit during the day and just eat lunch. And it was beautiful. And I did a lot of journaling during that time. They encouraged us to bring a journal. And I probably wrote an entire journal full of my experience. And I knew after that weekend, I knew, like, okay, you can do this. It was almost like I needed that time alone to say, you're going to be okay alone. You got this, girl. Like, there is nothing you can't do. So stop making the excuse that, oh, I need permission from others to make this decision. Sorry, but no, that I don't. Right. I only need me, and I don't need others to tell me what to do. So you have it within you. That's all I will say to people out there who are struggling. You know the answer. And, sometimes it has to come to you in time, and it takes a while. But we also all have that intuition deep within us, and we have to figure out how to bring that out. And I think bringing that out takes getting quiet, quieting the mind, quieting the body, relaxing the body, and getting to a place of peace. And that was where all that overwhelm went away. And I was like, yeah, high five. Here we go. We can do this. And I highly recommend doing some reflection for sure, like that.
That's amazing. Yeah. I've only heard of a few people doing a silent retreat. And like every time I hear, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a thing. Like, that sounds amazing.
It is amazing. For someone like me who can talk a lot, yeah, it was really hard. But it was beautiful at the same time. I mean, there were animals, they had a barn, so we could go and like brush the horses and talk about therapeutic.
Yeah.
There's something about horses. They have this energy that they pick up your energy and they respond to it. And when you go at them really calm, you can feel them relax, and then you brush them. It's incredibly therapeutic. So they had that. And so they were just, I had never been to one either until I did this. And it literally was a life-changing experience for me. So, and I've done so many retreats since then, not all silent, but it was a great experience. So I'm not saying everyone should go do a silent retreat, but whatever works for them. I mean, there's so many, as you know, so many women's retreats based around healing, and there's spiritual ones, there's meditative ones, there's yoga retreats. I mean, so I encourage women to just get away and really try to get quiet with your thoughts for a little while.
I love that. So fun. So if someone is listening and is thinking of turning their pain into purpose and like starting a business based on their own life story, what is something you think would be helpful for them to hear?
Oh, wow. I think if you're thinking about starting your own business, it's all about you get clear on what's important to you. What has been sort of your own experience that you have that either has been life-changing for you, or has opened up doors for you, or has really just given you that energy. I'm all about energy. I'm all about energy. And I know Julie is, I know we all are in this space, but whatever gives you that energy and draws you in, that is it. And that is where the business begins. That, in my mind, is, if you are talking about this topic, or you are at a conference, where someone is talking about this particular topic that you're thinking about starting a business in, and you just radiate energy when you're talking about it, that's it. That is it. That is the thing. So, and then I say, you can make a business out of really anything that you are passionate about. And one thing that held me back was this whole imposter syndrome, right? We all get it around who's going to listen to me. I've been an HR professional for 25 years. Who am I? But really, not everyone's going to be, think I'm their cup of tea, and that's totally fine. But there are so many people out there who need us, and who need those of us that are willing to be brave and to put ourselves out there and to create a business around that so we can help others. And so I would say, find that thing that gives you that energy, that lights you up, and just start learning, start talking about it, start talking to other people about it. And to your point, it's all the energy, like when you and I started talking and you learned what I was doing, then all these people you started learning about oh my God, this person's going through that. And she does that. This is amazing. And so that's what naturally happens, right? It's a beautiful thing.
Amazing. Well, I'm so grateful for you following what lights you up and creating this magical divorce empowerment coaching business and helping so many people. I will put your contact information below so everyone can get in your world. Is there anything you would like to say in closing?
I would like to say thank you so much, Fallon. I'm so excited for you because I just know this podcast is going to be amazing. And I'm so excited that I'm the first guest here. And I just want to say to women out there, it does take a village, and, don't be afraid to reach out to people when you are like after divorce. There's so much change. And there's myself, there's other people out there that can support you. And you can't always do it on your own. While it is a lot of inner work. And I encourage you to get clear on, your own purpose and what's going on the inside. I also do feel it takes support. So reach out to people, and surround yourself with those that really care about you.
I love that. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
I've had such a great time.
Such a joy. And thank you everyone for tuning into the Biz Alchemist podcast. I will see you in the next episode. Bye for now.